The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Madam Secretary, you could please call the roll.
Vice Chair Orenshaw. Here. Senator Goycochea. Here. Senator Daly. Here. Senator Krasner. Here. Chair Flores.
Present. Please let the record reflect all members are present. We have a quorum. I appreciate everybody's patience and flexibility. It is a deadline day, and some of us were presenting bills today still and making sure that our stuff was moving in other places. So I do appreciate everybody staying with us late on a Friday. We don't anticipate having any hearings or adding anything further to the agenda other than what we have here now. And so it is my intent to, at the conclusion of our work session document, to open up public comment and then close it out for the day, and everybody can go home and not be worried whether or not we're going to be trying to doing something strange after hours. I promise we won't. I also wanted to say thank you to everybody's flexibility in terms of working with a lot of the amendments that the committee was requesting. I know we had a lot of last-minute work that was done, and I do appreciate all of you for working with us on that, because I know it's stressful and we're trying to make policy move, and then you have legislators that start messing with your stuff, and you roll with the punches. I really do appreciate all of you for that. And I also understand that there's a lot of you that were hoping for certain things not to move or to move, and that were fortunately not going in your direction. I also just appreciate your due diligence. You worked incredibly hard. Your clients should know that. You did a great job, but unfortunately, we just couldn't get the votes at some times, and/or your argument just didn't pass muster, and then we have a bunch of folk that still want to support it. But I just want to acknowledge the fact that you've all been working incredibly hard, and I do appreciate that. We're going to open up the work session document with Assembly Bill 52. Mr. McDonald, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is Jared McDonald, Research Division of Legislative Counsel Bureau. The first bill on your work session is Assembly Bill 52. This revises makes various changes to the open meeting law and was sponsored on behalf of the Attorney General and heard in this committee on May 3rd. The bill makes various changes to the open meeting law, including clarifying what constitutes a meeting of a public body. The bill clarifies that non-voting members are not counted for purposes of determining a quorum of that public body, and if a vacancy occurs in the voting membership, the necessary quorum and number of votes necessary to act on a matter is reduced, as the voting membership does not include the vacancy. We do have a couple of amendments for this measure. The first was submitted by the Office of the Attorney General, and you can take a look at that conceptual amendment on the next page. They're proposing to clarify that Section 2 does not apply to a public body if all the members of the public body must be elected officials, and it also revises the definition of a public body with regard to a university foundation. We also have a conceptual amendment from the chair that proposes to amend the bill to eliminate provisions in Section 3 authorizing written notice by electronic mail of a meeting of a public body where administrative action may be taken against a person, and eliminate provisions in Section 6 authorizing written notice by electronic mail of a meeting of a public body to consider the character, alleged misconduct, professional competence, or physical or mental health of a person. That's all we have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 52.
So moved.
Vice Chair has made the motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 52. Do I have a second? Senator Daly has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you. I'm reading through this. I'm going to support the bill to get it out of committee, but I want to reserve my right on this. It's quite a little, there is some change in it, and I'm a little concerned about how it will impact the public bodies. So I'm going to support it coming out of committee, but reserve my right.
Thank you. Senator Krasner, please.
Thank you, Chair. We did just receive the amendment to this, so I'm going to vote no out of committee and reserve my right to change prior to floor. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the sake of clarity, that amendment of eliminating electronic notice as an option was at my request, not the request of the bill sponsor. So I don't want anybody to think that anybody was doing anything disingenuous there. That was genuinely me expressing my concern and working with them on that particular amendment, just for the sake of clarity and not to misguide the committee. Members, any additional comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries. Please let the record reflect. We have 4 ayes, 1 nay. Lisa Krasner. Motion carries. If I may ask Senator Daley, if you could please do the floor statement. Next item on the work session document, Senate Bill 446. Mr. McDonald, please.
Senate Bill 446 revises provisions related to the Division of Enterprise Information Technology and was sponsored on behalf of the Office of Finance. It was heard in this committee on May 17th. The bill requires each state agency that uses certain information services of the Division of Enterprise and Information Technology to pay a fee set by the administrator for those services and eliminates the requirements for the administrator to pay annually from the Fund for Information Services for subsequent additions to the computer facility in Carson City. And we have no amendments on this bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Senate Bill 446. Senator Krasner has made the motion to do pass Senate Bill 446. Vice Chair has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And if I may ask Senator Krasner, if you could please do that floor statement. Senator Krasner will do the floor statement for Senate Bill 446. Next on the work session document, Assembly Bill 33. Mr. McDonald, please.
Assembly Bill 33 revises provisions governing public investments. This bill is sponsored on behalf of the State Treasurer and heard on May 15th. The bill expands the authorized investments for money in the State Permanent School Fund upon the State Treasurer obtaining a judicial determination that such an investment does not violate the Nevada Constitution. The measure revises provisions governing money transferred from the fund to a corporation for public benefit to provide equity funding to certain businesses. And we do have a conceptual amendment on the next page that was proposed by the bill's sponsor, and this amendment would change "and" to "or" in Section 3 and subsection 1G, and to keep the original statutory language of $75 million rather than the $125 million as proposed in Section 4. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 33. Senator Goycochea has made the motion to amend and do pass Senate Bill 33. Senator Daley has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? I will just want to say thank you to our treasurer for being so flexible with the committee and working with us on that particular amendment. I know he's been doing great work, and we expect he'll continue to do the same. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And if I could please ask Senator Goycochea to do that floor statement. Senator Goycochea, with a lot of enthusiasm, will take care of that commercial paper floor statement. Next on the work session document is Assembly Bill 97.
Assembly Bill 97 revises provisions related to government administration. This was sponsored by Assemblywoman Hardy and heard on May 3rd. The bill precludes certain government entities from adopting a building code or taking any other action prohibiting or limiting the use of refrigerants designated by the United States Environmental Protection Agency as a refrigerant alternative or substitute if equipment installation complies with certain industry standards. And we have no amendments on this bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 97. Vice Chair has made the motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 97. Senator Goycochea has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And I will ask our phenomenal Vice Chair to please do that floor statement. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Next on the work session document, Assembly Bill 143.
Assembly Bill 143 revises provisions governing counties. This bill was sponsored by Assemblyman O'Neill and heard on May 1st. The bill authorizes a Board of County Commissioners to convey without consideration and without complying with certain requirements in existing law, real property that the county acquired directly from the federal government for the purpose of clearing title in the property. The county recorder of any county in which the Board of County Commissioners conveys real property per provisions of this bill between October 1, 2023 and June 30, 2024 must report on or before July 1, 2024 to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Government Affairs the number of such conveyances initiated or completed. We do have one amendment proposed for this measure. This was sponsored by the chair, and it proposes to amend the bill to make it applicable to counties with a population of less than 4,500. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you, members. As you'll recall during the bill presentation, I wanted to make sure that we were capturing the original intent of the bill and putting and to ensure that we captured story, but it also inadvertently captures Esmeralda Eureka. But that is the genesis of that, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that that was strictly coming from at my request. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 143. Senator Daley has made the motion to amend and do pass. Vice Chair Orenshaw has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously, and congratulations, Assembly Member. And with that, we will have Senator Krasner do your floor statement, and she will do it with a lot of enthusiasm. In your honor, Assembly Member. Next on the work session document is Assembly Bill 172. Mr. McDonald, please.
Assembly Bill 172 revises provisions governing collective bargaining for local government employees. This bill was sponsored by Assembly Members Anderson, Duran, and others, and heard on May 8th. The bill requires each local government employer to semi-annually provide each employee organization recognized by the local government employer certain contact information for each employee of the bargaining unit represented by the employee organization. The bill also specifies that the information is not a public record. We do have a couple of amendments on this bill. The first is proposed, and this was submitted subsequent to the hearing. The first was proposed by the Nevada State Education Association, and it proposes to amend the bill to make it applicable only to school districts and to allow school district employees to opt out of having their contact information disclosed to a recognized employee organization. The second amendment proposed here was discussed during the hearing. This was brought by representatives of ASKME, and it proposes to amend the bill to make parking and transportation mandatory subjects of collective bargaining under NRS 288-500. And you can take a look at that, again, if you would like, on page 23 of the work session document. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 172. So moved. Vice Chair has made the motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 172. Do I have a second? Senator Daley has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and of course, I'm not a real fan of collective bargaining. A couple of these provisions in here are just overreach, so I will be in no.
Members, any additional discussion? Senator Krasner diddles that position. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Nay. Motion has 3 in favor, 2 opposed. The 2 opposed are Senator Goycochea and Senator Krasner. Motion carries. I ask that our Vice Chair, if you could please carry that floor statement as well. Vice Chair will carry the floor statement on Assembly Bill 172. I know we have Assembly Member Gray here in the audience. The next on the work session document is Assembly Bill 173. If I could have you come forward, Assembly Member, please. That's fine, please, yeah, with the amendment.
Assembly Bill 173 revises provisions governing public works. This was sponsored by Assemblyman Gray and O'Neill and others, and heard on May 17th. The bill revises provisions to certain bids for a public work for which a list disclosing their first-tier contractors is required. We do have one conceptual amendment proposed for this bill. You can take a look at that on the next page. The amendment proposes to amend subsection 1A of section 1 to reduce from 100,000 to 75,000 the threshold triggering the requirement to submit the name of each first-tier subcontractor who will provide labor or a portion of the work on a public work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I wanted to put on the record that I, in an effort to try to get some of the opposition, or better said, the only opposition to work with this bill, proposed the amendment of reducing the 100K threshold that triggers the requirement to submit the name of each first-tier subcontractor to 75,000. However, that is not considered a friendly amendment to our bill sponsor, and that puts us in a position that my understanding is the committee would only move it with that. But I wanted to say 3 things. First, Assemblyman Gray and Lexis have the entire time been transparent, worked in good faith, and worked their butts off on this particular measure. And you've been transparent about everything the entire time. And I know you worked the bill incredibly hard. So I am not going to put you in a position that you have to accept the bill with my amendment. You either, and I understand that you may want to withdraw the bill altogether, but I didn't think it'd be fair for us to have a hearing and discuss this without giving you the credit you deserve. I don't think the bill was properly worked by the opposition. I think a better job could have been done both in the assembly and here. But I also need to be firm on my commitment. I promised that I would try to work with the opposition and move the bill. And that was the commitment that I made. And unfortunately, we're not there. But Assemblymember Gray, fairness to you and fairness to all the people that I believe did all the right things. You worked the heck out of this bill. You had the people that you needed there. I did not want to do that without giving you an opportunity to express why this amendment cannot be accepted and why it just does not work for you and the folk that you've been trying to work with and collectively have brought up many issues behind closed doors, but I thought it'd be fair that you get an opportunity to address those now.
Assemblyman Ken Gray for the record. Thank you, Chair Flores. I really appreciate that. I literally just got a text as I was sitting here with you. Can I ask for a 1-minute recess to discuss something with you real quick?
Yes, 1 minute recess. The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come back to order. Members, there's some additional conversations that need to occur with all parties involved with Assembly Bill 173. So rather than take any action now, we were going to roll that to the end of the agenda to allow for those conversations to finalize. And instead, we will move on to Assembly Bill 177. Mr. McDonald, please.
Assembly Bill 177 revises provisions governing parcel data sets. This bill was sponsored by Assemblyman Gurr and others and heard on May 5th. This bill adds an association for operators, which is an organization that receives certain notifications for transmittal to its members who own, operate, and maintain a subsurface installation to the list of entities that the state demographer must, upon request, provide the fiscal year-end parcel data set of a county. The measure adds without limitation the Underground Service Alert of Northern California and Nevada or its successor organization to the definition of an association for operators for purposes related to this provision. And we have no amendments on this measure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 177.
So moved.
Vice Chair has made the motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 177.
No amendment.
I mean, excuse me, do pass. I keep saying amend and do pass. Let the record reflect, do pass Assembly Bill 177. Senator Goycochea has seconded that motion very enthusiastically. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And Senator Goycochea, if you could please do us the honor of reading that floor statement passionately on the floor. Senator Goycochea, we'll give it some rural touch. We will go to Assembly Bill 213, please.
Assembly Bill 213 revises provisions governing residential zoning. This bill was sponsored by Assemblywoman Howdigy and heard on May 8th. The bill revises provisions related to the adoption of measures in certain counties related to affordable housing. The measure provides that certain deadlines related to land use planning that apply to counties also apply to cities. In addition, on or before July 1, 2024, the governing body of each county or city must enact certain ordinances relating to affordable housing projects. We do have one amendment proposed for this measure, and this was discussed in the hearing. If you recall, the amendment proposes to clarify the definition of application, extends from 3 to 10 the working days of time allotted to a local governing body to review and respond to an application, and extends from 3 to 5 working days the time allotted to a local governing body to review and respond to a corrected application. That's all we have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass, Assembly Bill 213. Vice Chair has made the motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 213. Do I have a second? Senator Goycochea has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Vice Chair, if I could please have you do the floor statement. Our Vice Chair will do the floor statement. Next on the work session document is Assembly Bill 214. Mr. McDonald, please. Sorry.
Assembly Bill 214 revises provisions governing certain regional transportation commissions. This was sponsored by Assemblywoman Anderson and Senator Daley and heard on May 5th. The bill requires a regional transportation commission in a county whose population is 100,000 or more, but less than 700,000, currently Washoe County, to establish an advisory committee to provide certain information. Further, the bill requires an RTC or any person who contracts with an RTC to operate a public transportation system to maintain any audio or video recording that is used as evidence in disciplinary actions or contains an incident on a public transit system that results in an injury to an employee. And then finally, the bill allows RTC to establish fines for passengers who refuse to comply with a regional statewide health and safety standard or mandate. We do have two amendments for this bill. The first was proposed by the chair, and this proposes to amend the bill to require a regional transportation commission in a county whose population is 100,000 or more, to establish an advisory committee to provide information and advice to the commission concerning the construction, installation, and maintenance of benches, shelters, and transit stops for passengers of public mass transportation in the county. The amendment also revises the required membership of the advisory committee to include employees of the person who contracts with the commission to operate the public transit system in the county. And then finally, the bill will add Senator Goycochea as a joint sponsor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to first entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 214.
So moved.
Vice Chair has made the motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 214. Do I have a second? Senator Goycochea has seconded that. Members, any discussion? Senator Daley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have concerns over the Second Amendment. I think my colleague from Eureka is trying to sabotage my perfect record of not being sponsored with any bill. I kid my friend at the other end of the dais here. So no, I have no problems with the bill. Just wanted to put in my 2 cents.
Please let the record reflect Senator Daley is concerned that there is a evil scheme to kill this bill, as Senator Goycochea is trying to be on the same bill that he is on. Members, any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And if I could have our very passionate Senator Goycochea do a Braveheart-type speech on the floor for Assembly Bill 214. He will gladly do it. Thank you. Next is Assembly Bill 225.
Assembly Bill 225 revises provisions concerning the confidentiality of personal information of certain persons. This was sponsored by Assemblywoman Newby and heard on May 17th. The bill sets forth a process for a person who's not otherwise authorized under existing law or a representative of a governmental agency for whom such a person is an employee to petition the district court to make the personal information of the person who is contained in the records of the county recorder, assessor, clerk, city clerk, or the Secretary of State confidential. Finally, the bill makes the list of persons who are authorized to request such a court order consistent with the records of the county recorder, assessor, clerk, city clerk, or the Secretary of State. And we have no amendments for this measure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 225.
So moved.
Vice Chair has made the motion to do pass Assembly Bill 225. Senator Daly has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And if I please can ask our Vice Chair to also do the floor statement on 225.
Yes, sir.
The Vice Chair will do the floor statement on 225. Next on the work session document is Assembly Bill 235.
Assembly Bill 235 revises provisions governing public works projects. This was sponsored by Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno and heard on May 10th. The bill requires the payment of prevailing wages to workers who perform custom fabrication on a public work or for certain performance contracts of local governments or state agencies. We have no amendments on this measure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 235.
So moved.
Vice Chair has made the motion to do pass Assembly Bill 235. Do I have a second? Senator Daly has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be opposing this. As we talked about in the hearing, this is going to be almost impossible to enforce and to track, so I will be a no.
Thank you. Members, any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Please let the record reflect. We have 3 ayes, 2 nays. Motion carries. The nays were Senator Goycochea and Senator Krasner. If I could please ask Senator Daly to do the floor statement on Assembly Bill 235. Senator Daly will do the floor statement on 235. Next, Assembly Bill 262.
Assembly Bill 262 revises provisions related to state-owned vehicles. This bill was sponsored by Assemblyman Watts and heard on May 15th. The bill requires, to the extent practicable, state agencies to give preference to purchasing automobiles that minimize emissions and the total cost of the automobile over the life service. The bill also declares that it is the policy of the state to pursue and support a transition of all publicly owned vehicles to vehicles that emit zero tailpipe emissions by 2050. We do have an amendment for this measure proposed by the bill sponsor. The amendment proposes to clarify that it is the goal of the state to pursue and support, to the extent practicable, a transition to all publicly owned vehicles to vehicles which emit zero tailpipe emissions by 2050. And if you take a look at the mock-up on the next page, you'll see it's just adding the words goal and to the extent practicable in section 2.5. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 262. Senator Krasner has made the motion to amend and do pass. Vice Chair Ornshaw has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Senator Krasner, please.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank the sponsor of the bill for being so great to work with. I asked for an amendment, and he accepted it, and so I will be voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Krasner. Members, any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Next on the work session document is Assembly Bill, in the floor statement, Senator Krasner, if I could please have you do the floor statement. Senator Krasner will enthusiastically do the floor statement. Next, we have Assembly Bill 305. Mr. McDonald, please.
Assembly Bill 305 revises provisions governing public works. This bill was sponsored by Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno and others and heard on May 10th. The bill requires that, to the extent practicable on public works projects, at least 2% of the hours of labor for vertical construction that is required to be performed by apprentices must be performed by women, and at least 1% of the hours of labor for horizontal construction that is required to be performed by apprentices must be performed by women. These provisions do not apply to a public work project for which the bids have been submitted before January 1, 2024. We do have an amendment that was proposed for this measure from Senator Daly, and you can take a look at that on the next page. The amendment will provide that there shall be no penalties applied to a contractor or subcontractor who fails to meet the utilization goal for women because it is not practicable, and that there is a rebuttable presumption that the reason for the contractor or subcontractor did not or was not able to meet the utilization goal for women apprentices was due to the lack of available women apprentices. The amendment also provides that an apprenticeship program is unable to rebut the presumption that a sufficient number of women apprentices was available to the contractor or subcontractor. The State Apprenticeship Council shall at least once every 2 years require the program to appear before the council to review the program's policies to recruit women apprentices. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 305. Senator Daley has made the motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 305. Do I have a second? Vice Chair Orenshaw has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to vote no on this particular measure. We're putting in statute, there's no way we can comply with it. There's no way the industry can comply with it or the apprenticeship program. I look at Senator Daley's amendments, and I appreciate them, but again, we're putting something in statute nobody can comply with. No use putting it on the books.
Thank you, Senator Goycochea. Senator Krasner, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be voting yes out of committee on this. I appreciate the work and the amendment, but I want to reserve my right prior to floor. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do know that the bill sponsor, along with the stakeholders, did work at length, and unfortunately, we couldn't get all there, but I think they're trying to establish a goal, which obviously we all want to see more women in our apprenticeship program, so I think we could appreciate that, absolutely. With that, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Please let the record reflect. We have 4 ayes, 1 nay, with Senator Goycochea voting against, and motion carries. I ask that we please have Senator Krasner, if you could please do that floor statement. Senator Krasner will do the floor statement on Assembly Bill 305. Next on the work session document is Assembly Bill 333. Mr. McDonald, please.
Thank you, Chair. Assembly Bill 333 revises provisions governing housing authorities. This bill was sponsored by Assemblywoman Duran and heard on May 15th. The bill requires each housing authority in Nevada to conduct an inspection on a regular basis as required by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development of each dwelling unit owned or managed by the housing authority and dwelling units leased pursuant to certain federal law. The housing authority or the housing authority in coordination with the private owner as applicable shall ensure that all necessary repairs are made as soon as practicable after the inspection so that the dwelling unit is in a decent, safe, and sanitary condition. We have no amendments on this measure. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 333.
So moved.
Vice Chair Orenshaw has made the motion to do pass Assembly Bill 333. Do I have a second? Senator Daley has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the way I read the bill, and I don't know if I was here for this bill hearing or not, I must have been, but slept through it. But anyway, I'm concerned that the housing authority has to go to the, in coordination with the owner, has to go to the tenant and get approval after that the repairs are done and get them signed up. I'm really concerned in many of these cases, they probably never will get a signature, and they'll be repairing for the rest of the, some people are just hard to please. And so that's what concerns me about the bill. So at this point, I'm going to oppose it.
Do we have anybody from the Housing Coalition that would like to come up and address that particular matter? It is completely okay if you are not here, but my understanding from the conversations is that we also did not have anybody in opposition.
Yeah, it's probably just my own, the way I'm looking at it, but the way I read the bill and looking at it, I realize it's in compliance with federal law, but when we get down to the bottom, the housing authority, in coordination with the private owner as applicable, shall ensure that all necessary repairs are made as soon as practicable, and the way I read the bill, the tenant has to sign off, and that's problematic.
Senator Goycochea, I think you are reading that correctly. But we have our amazing legal staff that could clarify anything further.
For the record, this is Heidi Clarkson with the Legal Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. The requirement to obtain the signature of the tenant is in relation to the performance of the inspection. So after the inspection is performed, the housing authority is required in section 1 to obtain the signature to confirm that to confirm that the inspection was conducted. There is a requirement that if that inspection identifies necessary repairs, the housing authority or the housing authority in coordination with the private owner is required to ensure that the necessary repairs are made as soon as practicable. There's not a specific requirement that the tenant sign off on the repairs. The affirmative requirement for the tenant's signature is that acknowledging that the inspection was performed.
Thank you. Please.
Then I just have one. Could that trigger then, after the repairs are done, do they have to come back and do another inspection? I've just got some gray area, and I'm sorry, we're debating the bill in work session.
No problem, please.
Again, this is Heidi Clarson. The bill does not specifically address that, and whether or not there's any specific provision of federal law that would address that concern, I don't have access to that, but I could try and get an answer for you on that. I just don't have that right now.
Out of caution, I'll vote no on it, but I will reach out to Assemblywoman Duran and see if we can get some clarification, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you. Members, any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Please let the record reflect. We have 3 ayes, 2 nays, Senator Goycochea being a nay and Senator Krasner being a nay. Motion carries. And I will ask Senator Daley if he could please do the floor statement. Senator Daley will do the floor statement in Assembly Bill 333. Next on the work session document, Assembly Bill 361.
Assembly Bill 361 revises provisions related to state financial administration. This bill was sponsored by Assembly members Monroe Moreno and others and heard on May 10th. This bill provides that if a department, institution, or agency of the executive branch of state government is required to request the approval of the Interim Finance Committee to accept a grant from the federal government and revise a work program to implement the grant, then the entity may, upon submission of the application for the grant, request that the IFC grant provisional approval to accept the grant and revise the work program. With this approval, the department, institution, or agency is not required to obtain additional approval from the IFC unless the actual amount of the grant or change to the work program exceeds the greater of the amount provisionally approved by the IFC plus 10% or the amount provisionally approved by the IFC plus $75,000. We have no amendments on this measure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 361. Senator Goycochea has made the motion to do pass Assembly Bill 361. Do I have a second? Senator Daley has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And if I could please have Senator Goycochea do the floor statement on Assembly Bill 361. Next on the work session document, Assembly Bill 378.
Assembly Bill 378 revises provisions governing collective bargaining. This bill was sponsored by the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs and heard on May 15th. It requires the designated representative of the executive branch of state government and the exclusive representative of a bargaining unit before engaging in collective bargaining to select a mediator and an arbitrator for the purposes of potential mediation and arbitration, and to the extent possible, determine and reserve with the selected mediator and arbitrator the calendar days when such mediation or arbitration would occur should the parties not reach a collective bargaining agreement. The bill revises certain provisions related to the timing of negotiation, mediation, and arbitration of these collective bargaining agreements, and we have no amendments on this measure. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you, Mr. McDonald. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 378. Vice Chair has made the motion to do pass Assembly Bill 378. Senator Daley has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Motion carries unanimously. And if I could please ask our Vice Chair to do the floor statement. Sure, thank you. Members, we have 2 remaining items on the agenda, but I understand that there are ongoing conversations. So I ask that we take a brief recess to allow for those to be completed, and we'll be right back on the record. I hope that we can be back on the record no more than 5 minutes. We are in recess. if the attachés are following along, if we could please have Senator Daley and Senator Krasner please join us as we are ready to reconvene. The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come back to order. We do have joining us Assemblyman Gray. Please.
For the record, Assemblyman Ken Gray, thank you, Mr. Chair, for that recess. Sorry it took so long. Unfortunately, no agreement was able to be made with Building and Trades. You know, I would still ask, and you've said it yourself, you know, we've worked on this bill above board. The amendment, we tried to make it work. There was just no way. We sat down and went over and over, and it would actually make current existing law worse than it is, and that's the last thing in the world I ever want to do. You heard people sit here the other day and testify that this was good policy, it was good for local government, and ultimately it's good for taxpayers, and I still believe that, you know, to the bottom of my heart. You know, I do believe there are parties that did not deal above board. There has been no opposition to this bill in either the Assembly side or even when we did our hearing here the other day. I'm sorry. So, I mean, what I would ask is, you know, if you guys would still work session it without the, you know, without the amendment and push it to the full floor and let it, you know, let them decide there, or maybe an agreement for an amendment could be reached between now and then. But other than that, I would rather just see the bill die not a slow, painful death, but just put a bullet right in its forehead than add the amendment. And it just doesn't work for anybody. And like I said, I can't support that. Even though it's my own bill, I won't do it.
Understood, and thank you for that, Assemblyman Gray. And I do appreciate you try to work even up into the, you know, hour of 11:59. And I understand that we couldn't get there. I'm not going to force you to do anything you don't want, period. That's not the agenda on my end. But I was hoping that maybe we could be able to get everybody on board. So with that, we will step back and just move away from the bill at this time and not force you to take something you don't want. So next on the work session document is Assembly Bill 391, excuse me.
Assembly Bill 391 revises provisions governing public works. This bill was sponsored by the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs and heard on May 10th. This bill authorizes a local government to require a contractor on a public work to give preference for hiring labor on the public work to local residents who meet certain criteria. This authority does not apply if any federal statute or regulation precludes the granting of federal assistance or reduces the amount of that assistance for a particular public work. We do have one amendment proposed for this measure. You can take a look at the mock-up on the next page. This amendment proposes to authorize a local government to enter into a pre-hire agreement for a public work, and that any such pre-hire agreement may contain a preference to hire local residents. That's all we have for this bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 391. Senator Daley has made the motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 391. Second. Vice Chair Ornshaw has seconded that motion. Members, any discussion? Senator Goycochea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Although it is only enabling, it says may, it's still just a project labor agreement. I will be voting no.
Understood. Members, any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Please let the record reflect. We have 3 ayes, 2 nays. Motion carries. The nays are Senator Goycochea and Senator Krasner. Motion carries. If I could please ask Senator Daley to please do the floor statement on Assembly Bill 391. With that, members, we have completed the work session document. I wanted to take a personal point of privilege before going into public comment to thank, while I anticipate we may be hearing other bills as they make their way out of our money committees, I wanted to start off by thanking our amazing staff, Linda, Suzanne, Spencer, Heidi, Jared, and I am specifically, and I apologize that I'm using a first name basis, but I think it's important that I make it clear that I think we built a relationship that we can call ourselves in a first name basis. Nothing in this building ever works without the amazing staff we have. Nothing in this building happens without the amazing staff we have. If anything is chaotic, it's always the electeds. If anything works out and is good, it's always our staff. I've said this millions of times. Many people will carry these titles, and we can go away tomorrow, and it's fine. As long as our staff is here, that is the engine and heart of this state. I've had the tremendous honor and privilege of having Mr. McDonald sit by my side for many years now, and he honestly makes me a better human being. He is an incredibly talented human being. I am honored to have the privilege of having met him in the Assembly and having on the Senate side. And he is just an absolute blessing to me personally. Heidi has worked with our request of amendments on a last-minute basis, always at all hours of the night, all hours of the morning, and she's always there available to us. I know we are not easy to work with, and I sincerely appreciate your amazing talent and what you bring to this table. Again, nothing works without you. And then before, I cannot minimize my attaché, who is a personal friend of mine, somebody who can stay in my house whenever he needs it. My family has adopted him in. Zachary Khan has absolutely been a superstar with me in every way imaginable, and I just consider him family, and I needed to give him a shout out for just being such an amazing human being to work with and taking care of my office. And again, if he ever offended you, it's probably because I asked him to do that. If he was doing something great, that is 100% who he is. I made him come out of character sometimes at my request, but he really is an amazing human being. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I will miss you, although I will say there's moments of being in this building that I think everybody's ready to take a nap. You've earned it. But again, I just wanted to thank you all. You are an absolute blessing to this state, and nothing works without any of you. I would like to very briefly invite anybody wishing to join us for public comment, as I know we haven't not done that. Anybody wishing to join us Las Vegas, Carson City for public comment? No, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
And lastly, to our members, I just wanted to say I appreciate the incredible hard work all of you have done. We've amended a tremendous amount of bills. I think we've made them better. And I know it did not come easy. I know there's been a lot of long nights, and I appreciate all the work you've done. Senator Goycochea, you have, hopefully we have an opportunity to see you again in this committee before sine die, but obviously your service to the state. I said this yesterday during our other committee hearing, but I will say it again. I appreciate everything you do and your passion for all your constituents. I appreciate you always reminding us that Nevada is not just Las Vegas. It's not just Reno, and it's not just Carson City. You've been an absolute advocate and an amazing human being to all those Nevadans to ensure that everyone has representation on this committee. I think most of your questions started off, or better said, answers and or questions started off with in the rurals. And it's important. It's important that they recognize that they have a human being in this building who never, ever allows anybody to forget that they're equally as powerful and that you're a voice to them. And your service to the state is invaluable. You've raised an amazing young man that we've had an opportunity to see in another committee. But that is testament to just how amazing you are, and I just wanted to say what an honor it is to have you here. Please.
If I may, Mr. Chair, and again, it's, I've been truly blessed. I've worked with Heidi, Suzanne, it was in the 15 session, just the great staff we have in this building, and, we all become family. And, when it's 20 years worth of family, it gets to be a little you get to know each other pretty well. But I can't thank everyone enough for the opportunity to be here and my constituency, whether they be in the west side of Las Vegas or in Elko and the rurals. Again, I really thank them for giving me the opportunity to spend this time here with you in this building. And again, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, members, nothing additional. This meeting's adjourned.